Hey guys, I'm Prodegy from Airsoft Team Kilo 23. Welcome to another episode of Inside the Mechbox. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to take the gearboxes and all the internal parts of two guns and compare them. Those two guns are the Combat Machine M4A1 by G&G and the A&K D1. Both are high quality AEGs. The Combat Machine is made in Taiwan and runs for $140 on airsplat.com. The A&K is made in China and runs for $214.99 on airsplat.com. Now right out of the box you can tell a huge quality difference between the two. There's a huge price difference also, so realize that these are two different AEGs even though they are the same standard basic M4 style rifle. Now, after this quick commercial break, I'll take a seat and open these two things up and we can take a look at the internals. Now, let's start this amazing comparison. The Combat Machine M4A1 does have a plastic body and is quite a bit cheaper than the A&K M4D1. It weighs significantly less than the A&K, so if you're a smaller player or a little newer, or you just can't lift as much, this would probably be a better choice for you. It's wired to the front handguard, so it's probably best that you use a mini type or a nunchuck type battery with this gun. Now, in comparison to a standard M4, the A&K M4D1 sorta looks like a beast. Keep in mind, this Gemtech Halo Mach suppressor is not included, that is sold separately. It normally will come with one of these kind of SPR looking flash hiders. Instead of coming with a 450 round high capacity magazine, it only comes with a 300 round high cap. That's fine, not a huge difference, you can always buy more magazines. Now instead of being wired to the front handguard, the A&K M4D1 is wired to the crane stock. So you're going to need at least a crane stock style battery. There are two kinds, the ones that use the larger cells and the ones that use the smaller cells. This one is going to use the larger cells, so don't go buy the smaller cell crane stock batteries, those will just kind of flop around, make a lot of noise. You're going to want to buy a larger cell crane stock battery. Now, before we get started going over the internals of these guns, I just want to point out to all you guys that I have had the G&G Combat Machine for about 6 months now. So I have had to make some modifications to the internals to get it field ready. So as we go along, I'll point out the things that I have changed and show you the stock parts as well. Now, let's start by looking over the hop-up chambers and barrels of these guns. The G&G Combat Machine, the one on top here, has a plastic hop-up chamber, even though it does look metal from this angle. The A&K is actually metal. Now, as you can see, they both have brass barrels. The only reason the Combat Machine has a brass barrel is because I installed the Systema Type 4 barrel in there. If you would like to see the stock performance, or how well the Systema barrel does, you can go look at the Deep Fire versus Systema barrel comparison on the Airsplat page on YouTube. Now, the stock Combat Machine barrel will be made out of aluminum, so if you get this gun and you decide to take it apart, please don't be surprised. An interesting little thing to point out here is the fact that the G&G barrel actually doesn't come with a little spring here like the A&K does. I had to include this in here so the hop-up chamber and barrel would stay in place. Usually if you don't have the spring, or a spring in general, there's a little bit of wobble in there, so the chamber can move front and back about 2 or 3 millimeters. That can create a poor air seal, so if you don't have a spring in there, you should really install one. Almost all AEGs come with a spring sitting there. As you can plainly see, the G&G barrel is a little bit longer, 363 millimeters, while the A&K barrel is closer to about 300 millimeters. The A&K bucking on the left uses a slightly thicker design on the lip there, so you can get a better air seal with it, but it tends to not work in most hop-ups except for A&K hop-ups. The G&G on the right, oddly enough green, gets a really good air seal and can fit in just about any hop-up. Now, one more quick detour before we move inside the mech boxes of these two guns. The A&K motor on the left has an extremely high torque. It's actually one of the highest torque motors I've ever seen in a stock AEG. The gun really does need such a high torque to pull the M130 spring that's inside it. That's why it's getting such a high FPS of about 390 to 400. The G&G motor, the grayish one, can pull about a 120 spring at most. I tested both of these motors, the A&K and the G&G. Their max rate of fire is about 15 rounds a second, no matter what the spring. Now, let's look at the wiring just before we open these up. As you can tell, the G&G Combat Machine M4 on the left is wired to the front, so the wiring configuration is a little different from something wired to the back, like the A&K. The A&K on the right is wired to the back, so the wiring configuration runs through the back of the Mechbox. It tends to make it so there's a lot more wiring to deal with. The A&K uses Phillips head screws on the right side of the gearbox, while the G&G uses Allen key screws on the left side of the gearbox. This is actually a really rare thing. I've never seen this in a gearbox before. Now, just right off the bat here, you can see a load of differences between the two. They are both version 2 gearboxes, so they will have the same workings, except you're going to see a huge difference between brand and make of both of them. The G&G spring on the left is about an M100 power spring. It gets you about 340-350 FPS, and uses a standard metal spring guide. The A&K uses a slightly shorter spring and is about an M130 power. I was getting about 400 FPS with .2s on this thing. It does have a bearing spring guide, but the bearings actually look a little rusty. Next up, we can look at the piston head, and O-ring. The A&K piston, the white one here, is pretty light, does not have the second to last tooth removed. However, it does look like it's recessed in there a little bit, kind of an attempt to get rid of it. The G&G piston, however, does have the second to last tooth removed. This helps with the engagement angle being a little better, less chance of it stripping. Piston head of the A&K has quite a bit of grease and has 6 ports on it. Kind of standard, it's held in place by a screw, no bearings. G&G piston head is just unusual in every way. It is held in place by a large metal washer, goods and bads, but it's not bearing. And it does get a very good air seal. Like I said earlier, I have had the G&G Combat Machine M4 for quite a while, so I've done a few things to it. The holes in this piston do not normally come like this. This is called Swiss cheesing. If you want to look this up, or how to do it and what it does, go check out my Airsoft page, AST-Kilo23, on youtube.com. The cylinder assemblies of both guns may look similar, but they're actually quite different. This is from the G&G. It has a really nice tappet plate and air nozzle. The air nozzle does not have an O-ring in it, but it is smooth and black. It kind of helps blend in, makes it look a little nicer. The cylinder head fits in very, very snugly with the cylinder. It takes quite a bit of work to get it out. The cylinder is made of aluminum and has a port right here, perfect for the barrel length of the M4. The A&K, oddly enough, has no ports in the cylinder, so it really does allow the barrel length to determine the FPS along with the spring. The air nozzle fits onto the cylinder head very snugly, which is actually refreshing. They usually wobble around quite a bit. Tappet plate's adequate, but it feels kind of cheap. The nozzle is the same way, though it is smooth. The cylinder is chromium. It helps it get a better air seal and a better cyclic rate. The entire G&G gearbox, when I got it, was really well greased. I was actually very happy. For $140, a grease job could not be better. The AR latch is pretty thick. It's about like getting a system on, which is really good. The gear set is actually one of my favorite things about it. Pretty lightweight, made of good quality steel. Very well shimmed when you get it, which is a plus. You don't get a lot of well shimmed, low cost guns. The switch assembly and wires are well soldered. They fit in there just perfectly. You get a really crisp trigger response every time. It's really quick. The cutoff lever here does have a little extra lip or arm here, which helps the trigger to actually, stay on safe when you want it to. I've actually had that slip sometimes, so it is nice to have the extra little bar there. The G&G will come with 8mm copper bushings, but I elected to install 8mm bearing bushings just to give it a little higher rate of fire and a smoother cyclic rate. The wiring is about 18 gauge, so that kind of limits your rate of fire right there. But with the G&G motor, you really can't ask for more than 13 or 14 rounds, even on a LiPo battery, which I don't recommend trying in that gun. Now, I just opened up the A&K gearbox for the first time just now, so you can really see the grease distribution in the gun. It's not distributed very well, but oh well. It's a Chinese gun. A lot of Chinese guns tend to have bad grease distribution, and they always use the toothpaste green stuff. Kind of icky. The AR latch here is nothing special, it's no thicker than any other brand. The gears seem to be good quality, though A&K does have pretty good gears, so you can expect that from them. About as good quality as G&G, they will last about as long, but they don't look quite as good, they look a little rusty still. Unlike the G&G, the A&K doesn't really have any extended arm here, it just has, well, actually it's a little thinner. So I don't know if it'll do as good a job over time or not, but for now, it is staying on safe the way I want it to. The wire assembly is adequate quality. I'm not sure how long it'll last, but the soldering job is pretty good for A&K. The gun does come with 16 gauge wiring, which is a plus. You can really get a little bit of better rate of fire on there, and there's less resistance between the motor and the battery. 6mm metal bushings are installed on the gears, which is a plus. With such a high power spring, an M130, you really want metal bushings at least. Now while we're at it, let's see how hard both of these guns are shooting. We'll start with the G&G M4. Being chronoed with Airsplat .2 gram rounds. Getting around 340, 350 up there. That's about what I expected. Now let's move over to the A&K M4 D1. So it's shooting about 380, 390 feet per second. More or less what I expected. It's actually really good for an M130 spring with such a short barrel. Now that you've seen the internals of both of these guns, which would you go with? Both are pretty good. And the externals, dang, you can't beat them. What should I go with? Dang, I really don't know. It's a tie for me. The G&G is really well tuned out of the box, so if you're not a competent tech and you don't want to work on the internals, I'd say go for this one. The G&G Combat Machine M4. If you know the internals of a gun and you don't mind working on it, the A&K is probably a good choice for you. It does need some tuning, re-greasing, stuff like that, but overall it's a pretty good gun. Go to Airsoft Team Kilo 23's page, AST Kilo 23 on YouTube.com. Got a lot of videos, we already passed 100 videos, so I'm really happy with that. Get a lot of good comments and stuff, a lot of hits, really good ratings. Check us out. I think you'll have a good time. Now for the next few videos, what we're going to do is take a few parts for the budget Airsofter and install them in both of these guns and see what they do. It could be a spring, a piston head, a motor, you never know. Just have to stay tuned and find out. I'm Prodegy from Airsoft Team Kilo 23. Signing off.